Bonsoir à tous et bienvenue à notre 4e cours de cuisine célébrant la Fête nationale du Québec. C'est un plaisir d'être avec vous ce soir. My name is Laurence Gagnon and I'm the Communications Advisor at the Quebec Government Office in Boston. It's a real pleasure to be with you to celebrate Quebec National Day with the 4th episode of our Quebec USA cooking show. A couple of housekeeping notes before we start. The chat has been disabled. Please use the Q&A box to ask questions to the chef or any of the other panelists. I will relay the questions in real time to keep the event interactive. Feel free to ask your questions in English or en français. Now, sans plus attendre, it is my privilege to introduce our hosts for the evening, our delegates in New York and in Boston, Mesdames Catherine Loubier and Marie-Claude Francoeur. Catherine Loubier was appointed Delegate General in New York in February 2019 after serving as Deputy Chief of Staff in the Quebec Premier's office, where she led the transition of the new government. Previously, she acted as Senior Advisor to the Prime Minister of Canada and held various key positions in the private sector, advising business leaders in the financial, energy, charitable, infrastructure, and entertainment sectors. Madame Loubier holds a BA and a Master's in Political Science from the Université du Québec à Montréal, as well as a certificate in finance from Harvard Business School. Bonsoir, Madame Loubier. Appointed as Quebec Delegate to New England in May 2014, Ms. Marie-Claude Francoeur served as Quebec's representative in New England. This is her second term in Boston. Mme Francoeur formerly served as the Assistant Deputy Minister for Policies, Multilateral and Francophone Affairs and as Acting Chief of Protocol at the Ministère des Relations Internationales et de la Francophonie du Québec. Throughout her career, Mme Francoeur has worked to shape and promote Quebec's policies on climate change, labor, transportation, energy, and francophonie, both at home and internationally. Mme Francoeur holds a master's degree in both public administration and international relations from the Maxwell School at Syracuse University, as well as a bachelor's degree in applied sciences from Laval University in Quebec, and a certificate in advanced management from the McGill Executive Institute. Mme Francoeur has also completed the Senior Managers in Governments program at Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government. Mesdames les déléguées, the floor is yours.
Merci Laurence. Joyeuse fête nationale à toi, joyeuse fête nationale à tout le monde. Bienvenue dans ma cuisine. Je suis accompagnée donc de ma collègue Marie-Claude Francoeur. Bonne Saint-Jean, Marie-Claude. Happy National Day, everyone. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm joined today by my colleague, Marie-Claude Francoeur. She's delegate in New England. Bonne Saint-Jean, Marie-Claude. And the theme of Quebec's National Day celebration this year is Tisser serré. What does that mean? It means tightly knit. And with this series of cooking shows, we wanted to demonstrate our strong ties with our host regions in the US. And we picked the typical American recipes and sprinkled them with a little bit of Quebec touch. And today we'll make Quebec version of traditional shepherd's pie, our own pâté chinois. And you will be surprised to learn the story behind the name a little bit later. Over to you, Marie-Claude.
Merci, Catherine, et bonne Saint-Jean à toi aussi. Un bonsoir et des vœux de joyeuses fêtes nationales, tout particulier à nos spectateurs québécois. Bonne Saint-Jean à tous et merci d'être avec nous. Thank you to all our American friends whom have accepted our invitation to a Quebec National Day party. What a treat. Quebec National Day is on June 24th. Quebecers usually celebrate with a gathering of some sort, a house party, a cookout, or a barbecue. But somehow, all of those always end up with everyone tightly fitted in the kitchen. We call those parties de cuisine, kitchen parties. So I'm hopeful that next year we will celebrate in person, but in the meantime, welcome to Catherine's virtual kitchen party. Speaking of tisser serré or tightly knit, the United States are at the heart of Quebec's international policies. And just last month, our Minister of International Relations, Mme Nadine Giraud, unveiled Quebec's strategy for the United States. This new initiative seeks to expand Quebec's activities in the United States with additional investments and increased presence. For example, our office in Texas was elevated to the rank of a delegation, and my colleague Chin, or our colleague Chin Gao, was named the first delegate in Houston, making history. Tbsp also has a very special meaning for me as the representative of Quebec in New England. We share more than a border, we share a history, a common heritage, and our DNA. We are family. As you'll see in a few minutes, even our culinary traditions are integrated and intertwined. Bonne Saint-Jean à tous les Franco-Américains qui sont en ligne avec nous. Je pense à vous et j'ai hâte de vous retrouver en personne. But first, I'd like to introduce you to Mary Beth Mead, our agri-food attaché at the Quebec office in Boston, who will tell us a little bit more about her role, the products and the trends in New England, and her upcoming activities. Marie-Beth, la parole est à toi.
Merci, Mme Francoeur. As Mme Francoeur mentioned, my role is to help bring Quebecers, Quebec's food and consumer products to the New England market. I'm fortunate to get to work with a number of brands that fall in line with Quebec's reputation as a supplier of safe, high quality, and gourmet products. Given that many of us in New England have strong Quebec roots, as Mme Francoeur mentioned, I know the feeling of excitement when you see a product on the shelves that brings you right back to the meals with your grandparents. However, Quebec is known for much more than the traditional dishes of croton, my grandfather's favorite, tarte au sucre, and meat pies. Over the years, Quebec has made a name for itself as a leader in baked goods, such as bread and pastries, meats, especially pork products, and chocolate from ingredients to bean to bar, and of course, seafood and maple syrup. It is my mission to knock on the doors of local and national retailers to introduce them to these brands that we know and love so that we can all enjoy them in our own kitchens. I'm eager to continue working with restaurants as well, especially as our worlds start to expand beyond our own individual kitchens and our Zoom kitchens. Many of the region's high-end restaurants are serving Quebec's own Gianon chicken and indicating it as such on their menu, really speaking to the quality of the product. We can find some of Quebec's most unique products at independent stores such as Fromaggio Kitchen right here in Cambridge outside of Boston. They have everything from black garlic to cocktail mixers to artisanal cheeses. And you can also find Quebec products at retailers such as Stop & Shop, Shaw's, Hannaford's, Big Y, and Market Basket. There you can find products like O Sole Mio pasta, bread from Boulard, cookies from Biscuit Leclerc, and granola from companies like Grandma Emily. All of these found in our local chains. Please feel free to ask me any questions or reach out to me directly with any of your sourcing needs. I'll put my information in the chat box. That's it in a nutshell for New England. Madame Loubier, could you please tell us a little bit about the Mid-Atlantic market?
Yes, thank you, Mary Beth. So here at the Quebec Government Office in New York, we cover 8 states from New York to Virginia, and as well as Washington, D.C. So much like my colleague in New England, there's a variety of food products that you can find in the Mid-Atlantic, ranging from, of course, maple products, they're very popular here, to baked goods, to cheese, to beverages, and much more. Now, to give you a few examples, Old Quebec cheddar can be found at specialty food stores, especially in Pennsylvania. Bull's Head delicious soda beverages can be found in specialty stores and grocery stores like Key Food in New York. Première Moisson's pastries and breads can be found at Walmart. We've also been making a push in introducing products to subscription box companies, especially over the last year. For example, Trois Quarts d'Once, which is based in Montreal, crafts syrups for cocktail enthusiasts and was part of one of Bespoke Post's subscription boxes. I'd also like to briefly mention some upcoming events. The Fancy Food Show in New York, taking place in September at the Javits Center, and the Natural Products Expo East in Philadelphia gives companies a chance to showcase their products, of course, and to connect with potential buyers. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our chef, Dominic Sylvain. Dominic, bienvenue. Today, you'll be making Quebec's version of a traditional cottage pie, our pâté chinois. And to everyone, because I've tasted it before, it's absolutely delicious. So you need to take the recipe down and absolutely cook it. It's the best. And before you start, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you pick this particular recipe for our cooking show?
Okay, bon, mais bonjour tout le monde. Maintenant que la business est finie, là, on va commencer le party dans la cuisine. Si vous voulez savoir un peu, moi, je suis né et élevé à Montréal. So I was born and raised in Montreal, but then when I was 19, I wanted to learn English because I thought it was something that you really need to go further. And then I went to the west coast of Canada. And then the only job I could get when I went there was a dishwasher because I couldn't speak English. And I ended up working in a really good restaurant. The chef really liked me. I was a hard worker. Like actually most French Canadian, we have this reputation to be hard workers. Chef really liked me. I ended up in the kitchen, ended up getting a passion with cooking, ended up going back to Montreal to the l'ITHQ. Went to school for about 3 years. And from there, I went to Europe and then went back to Canada, work in Montreal. And now I'm in New York City. Marry an American woman. So yeah, so now I live here and I'm loving it. So before I start explaining why I picked this recipe, there's quite a bit to do. So I don't know how many people are actually really cooking with me today. So if you are, first thing you should do, but technically I had on my recipe that there was a couple things that should have been done before we start. So if you had your potatoes peeled for the mashed potato, that water should start boiling. That'd be the first thing. And then for the rest, I'll start with the meat and I'll explain everything like from why I picked this recipe as I'm cooking, just to save a bit of time because I need to come up with this in about 35 minutes. So this is a challenge. Okay. So
you can do it, Dominic. Huh? I've seen you serve hundreds of people.
So anybody that is cooking with me, you may feel rushed. Just don't rush anything. Don't worry. Just take some notes and watch me. And actually, the video is being recorded, so you'll be able to rewatch that class tomorrow or the next day. And by the way, I do have. You'll see somebody coming in the camera once in a while. This is my camera woman. See the second camera that'll be coming, and then have a focus on like. You'll see what's the consistency of things to show you like how the mashed potato should be loose, how the meat should be saucy, the cream corn. And then there we go. Let's start. So first, we're going to put olive oil in that pan and butter. I know it's a whole stick of butter. I know for some people, they're going to think that, but there's quite a bit of vegetable to cook with it and the meat. So, and this recipe is probably for like 8 to 10 people. So like a stick of butter, it's not that.
Dominic, is it salted butter? Salted or non-salted?
No, when I cook with unsalted. And then the only time I have salty butter, it's for the table. Okay. This, it's kind of a rule that most chefs because it's not every butter that has the same saltiness, and sometimes it could be play you some little tricks here. So there you go. So butter is foaming, and then you had all your vegetables. So onion, celery, carrots, and the garlic. And this, basically, you're gonna cook that in that butter until it gets translucent. So reason why I pick this recipe, this is a famous recipe in Quebec. Like I think every mother, every grandmother, every house make this. Like the pâté chinois is everywhere. But I picked this because it's a good story. It comes from the New England in the US. In the late 1800s, a lot of French Canadian Quebecers came down to New England to work in textile. I don't have I'm not a historian, so I don't have the exact date, but so tons of French Canadian came to New England and they were here, they were working in textile. but there was this one town in Maine who's called China. They were famous for this meat pie they were doing, and their meat pie was a layer of ground beef, vegetable, potatoes. And after many years, some of the French Canadian went back to Quebec and they brought that recipe with them. But being in Quebec, they switched like the vegetable, in the middle layer, they switched it for corn because we got tons of corn in the summer. It's really cheap. So they switched corn or just regular vegetable. And then this is where the name, because in Quebec we call it a pâté chinois, and there's a million like explanation, but I made like I think a whole week of research because I really wanted to know why are we calling this, because it comes from China, Maine, and then when it ended up in Quebec, they were calling it the China pie, and then it got translated in French, and it became the pâté chinois. So I think it's a great story between the Quebec and the New England here in the U.S. I thought it was totally appropriate to cook this today.
It's a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing it with us. And I know my friend Anne Conway from Rhode Island from the Museum of Art and Culture is on the line with us tonight. And I'm sure that she'll be able to have that one told on many of the visits when she's got people visiting her museum. Great. Thank you.
Good. So now the vegetable are, you can see the onions are getting translucent. You can probably see it from the camera. And then for the purpose of the class today, you will be putting raw ground beef, but me to save a bit of time today, it's already pre-cooked but plain. I didn't add anything. I just cook it so I didn't have to wait too much. But you would put raw ground beef, and you will basically do, if you were doing a bolognese sauce, it's exactly the same at the beginning. So I'm gonna add the beef in there. Give me a minute. And then you're gonna mix. And once again, if this is my recipe, but if you don't like it with that much vegetable in it, you don't have to. You can cut in half. It's really up to you. Same thing, like the mashed potatoes. I got a recipe in how to make the mashed potato on this, but if you have your family mashed potatoes that your grandmother used to make those. Like, it doesn't have to be exactly what I do. Like shepherd's pie in Quebec, everybody's got a different version. They're never the same. So up to you to tweak it, have fun with it. Okay, so now, see, I save some time. Meat, it's cooked. So when it's cooked like this, so this is where I'm gonna add flour, just a little bit of flour. And if people are gluten-free, you don't have to. It's just, I think the flour, it's a help to get the sauce a little thicker, so it's not too runny, but not a big deal if you do not want to add the flour. But if you do, you definitely want to cook the flour for a little bit.
So Chef Dominic, you don't have to put the flour in hot water before, so it doesn't have any,
No.
It just blends in.
Because now it's mixing with the butter. It's like almost, now I'm making a roux, but with the vegetable and the meat all mixed together. So you're saving some time. Yeah.
Okay.
I think in French, if I remember from my cooking school, this is called a Saint-Gé. That's when you put Saint-Gé, when you put flours with your vegetable and the butter, it's all mixed. Okay, so now flour is cooked, and this is where we're gonna add some of this. So chicken stock, put it in. Tomato puree, put it in. Tomato paste. And if you don't put flour in your shepherd's pie, maybe add one more tablespoon of the tomato paste. That would help thickening the sauce.
Yeah, I never knew there were tomatoes in there because it doesn't taste at all like tomatoes.
No, but I reduce it so much, like so that you kind of lose like Yeah, it doesn't taste like, I don't want it to taste like a bolognese either, but I want the saucy a little bit. Because I know my mother, I love my grandmother's shepherd's pie, but my mother was just putting straight ground beef, no nothing. And then I obviously, I was complaining, and then I changed the recipe.
Okay.
But don't tell my mom.
I can see what that's one of the secrets anyway.
Yeah. And then here I got, I'm going to call it Lee Perrin sauce because I can barely, Worcestershire sauce. I don't know. I can never say their word. So this in, and I put some nutritional yeast and chili powder, chili flakes in there. You don't have, if you don't like spicy, don't put it in. Nutritional yeast is just, since now that a lot of people try to cook vegetarian, and you know, and I was using it for that, but I find it gives such another layer of flavor with it. So now I keep using it even for meat recipes. It got tons of umami in your recipe. So as the Worcestershire too gives tons of umami. Then I put it in.
Chef, if people don't have the nutritional yeast, should they replace it with flour, or they should just?
No big deal. Just like if they don't have it. And then here I got the herbs. I got sage, rosemary, and thyme. And we just put everything in.
And are you using fresh herbs, or are you using dry herbs?
Yes, I did use fresh, but I was just about to say, if you don't have, or you can't find the, you can use dry. It's totally okay. But I find with dry, you really want to put it right at the beginning of your recipe. With fresh, fresh, I waited a bit. But if I had dry, I would have put it with the onion and the butter. Okay, so now this is cooking. We're gonna turn it down because I want it to simmer slowly, really slowly. Okay. Check.
While it simmers, maybe I can just relay a comment we got from Lise Véronneau from our friends at the Alliance Française in Vermont, and she also is with the city of Burlington. She said she did not know. Thank you for sharing the history of China, Maine. And I'm going to do a plug for Lise because she is a blue ribbon winner for the tourtière in Vermont. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
You might have competition in the kitchen, chef.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay.
So is the tourtière in your region, in Maine, I think you said, is the tourtière in Maine the same as the Quebec tourtière? Does it taste the same, Marie-Claude?
Actually, there are multiple recipes, just like there are in Quebec. So depending on where people come from and where they immigrated from, they carried with them their recipes. So we do have the cipote from the Saguenay in certain areas. And then you've got the true meat pie, mostly coming from the Eastern Township areas. So depending on where people came from, they came with different varieties and different recipes as well.
Okay.
Okay. So next, while my meat is cooking, the sauce is going to reduce so that we can just leave it on the corner. You can forget about it as long as it's simmering and you forget about it. So now we're going to do the cream corn. I love my corn and my shepherd's pie, but I don't like when it's just straight corn. I like a mix a bit. So now we're going to make that cream corn. There you go. So I started in the pot. I had the butter, the garlic, and a bit of onion. And basically we're gonna cook this until kind of like what I was saying for the meat for the shepherd's pie, until the onion gets like translucent. You can see they're like fully cooked. Okay, there we go. That should not take too long.
So that's fresh corn you put in there?
I took frozen corn.
Oh, frozen corn. Okay.
Yeah, I just say my grandmother used to, because I don't know why I can't find it here in the US, like just a can of cream corn.
Yes,
I can never find it here. So that's why I'm starting to make my own cream corn. But I remember my grandmother used to mix 1 can of regular corn and 1 can of cream corn, and she makes it. But that was it. She was not doing anything to it. Obviously, me now, I like to give a little je ne sais quoi. Okay, so onions are getting cooked. And by the way, you can see I cut everything small, but don't paranoid. Like all you don't want is you don't want big chunks of vegetables. But you know, don't sweat it too much. As long as it's like not too big, even if it's not all the same. It's a family. This is a dish that you eat like we say in Quebec, à la bonne franquette. So it's not something fancy. It's something for the family, and yeah. Don't stress too much. So onions are cooked. So now I had my corn that I just prepared. That's the only reason why it's in there. And then you're going to put it with the onions in the butter. And then you're going to mix. Well, it's cooking. You kind of want to, I don't know if you can hear, I'll bring my microphone. You need to hear this, like the sound when it's cooking. Boy. So now this is I got some chicken stock, or it could be vegetable stock, doesn't matter. And then I put in there. And then we got the goods here. That's the heavy cream. I would like to say you can put milk or half and half, but no, you can't. If you put the milk or half and half, I find it's separate, it curdle. It doesn't look as good. You kind of really need the cream. And then you put the cream in it.
I mean, you started with a stick of butter, so
yeah.
From then on.
At this
point, I was going to say, no wonder I love it so much.
Okay, and then there's this thing, old school chefs, as soon as something is creamy, we love to put a little touch of nutmeg in there. And this, I will put a tiny touch of nutmeg in it. And, yeah, and nutmeg too, I think it's something my grandmother, like the older generation used to cook more when you in Quebec, like clove, nutmeg, cinnamon, marjolaine, like those are all the spice I find that all the grandmothers used to use. Like those are used. I'm pretty much sure they're in the classic tourtière, but maybe what's her our guest name? The tourtière pro. Maybe she can tell us.
Ribbon.
Lise, she actually just commented also that at her grandmother's. When her grandmother would make the pâté chinois, she would use heavy cream right from the farm. She cooked everything with the fresh cream that she had at the farm. And we have John Tousignan too, who's chipping in. John is the executive director at the Franco-American Center in New Hampshire, and he is chiming in to say that his cottage pie never looks as good when he makes it at home. Does the chef think the addition of a Quebec flag or two might make my end result more authentic? So maybe that's the key recipe.
Okay, so now I got the corn, the cream, the chicken stock, and you'll see. See, it looks like it's pretty liquid. So it's exactly what we want, because now we need to reduce that. And while it's reducing, I'm gonna put fresh thyme. I'm not cutting it, I'm just putting it in there. The only thing is when it's gonna be what you want, don't forget to take it out. But I will mention it to you. Okay, meat is cooking, corn is cooking, my potatoes, let's see, but they're ready. So now we're gonna make the mashed potatoes. So give me 1 minute. I'm gonna strain this.
And when you do the thyme like that, we do that in our family, especially when my mother makes spaghetti sauce. And my dad always come up with this great phrase where he's telling my mother that she's got a tree in her sauce. So that's the joke on the family with the thyme that doesn't get cut out before it goes into a recipe. So we're looking for branches or trees.
So with the mashed potato, when you strain your potatoes from the water, don't start making your mash right away. You need that steam to come out because it'll take some water off like your potatoes.
So Dominic, are those, what kind of potato? They're pretty yellow. What kind of potatoes did you use?
Yeah. I use Yukon Gold yellow potatoes. This is a great question. Usually if you want to do French fries, baked potatoes, those are russet. As soon as I have to do mash or anything that I go Yukon Gold or yellow potatoes. They're not as grainy, and I feel you don't have to put as much. Just plain like this, they almost look like they already had butter and cream in it. So you kind of have to, I mean, it's good for you. You don't have to put as much cream and butter in your mash.
Yeah, they have a kind of a nutty taste that you may not want, or the texture you may not want in a poutine. No,
and they Yukon Gold don't color as well as like russet potato when you make your French fries, and they're like often Yukon Golds are shorter, so you don't. But yeah, so now I let my potato steam. So now I'm ready to make the mash, and this is not fancy mashed potato. That's why I'm gonna do it with this. Usually in a professional kitchen, mashed potato will be made with a ricer or like the forget the name, but the proper tool that you're using to make. But this is a family dish. We can make it with this, and so I'm gonna just start slowly, and then give me 2 seconds because I got the rest of the ingredient here.
That reminds me of, you know, my grandmother and my mother. You would see them do the mashed potatoes, and you know, I was always thinking, wow, they're pretty strong because, you know, they would pound at the potatoes for quite some time to get the right texture.
Yeah, but be careful. I guess they were pros, because if you work,
they were pros.
If you work your potatoes too much, then it becomes almost like a glue. Same thing. So now I'm putting the butter in it while they're hot. Yeah, if you work like your potatoes too much, or example, if you were doing your mashed potato with the electric mixer, you can, but don't mix it too long, because if you mix it too long, suddenly your potato just they become like glue in that.
Like glue, yeah.
My sort of way to explain it, like they start sticking up your palate like this. It's like, it's not a good feeling.
So did I see you put another stick of butter in those?
Oh, those are mashed potatoes. So, you know.
So was it 1 or 2 sticks that went in?
That was 1.
Okay.
But if you want to put 2, but.
It's not too bad. We're at like 3 or 4 sticks for 10 people if I get. But it's not that bad.
And then this is milk. I didn't use cream for my mashed potato today. But sometimes I do use cream for my mashed potato though.
So do you warm up your milk before you put it in, or you use cold milk?
I was just about, you guys read my mind. I was just about to say, I usually, if I was making mashed potato I would warm up the milk with the butter in it. And sometimes I throw some thyme in the milk, so the milk get a little flavor, like but this for the shepherd's pie, obviously I'm gonna make sure there's not too much big chunk in it, but the whole thing's gonna get back in the oven, so it's okay if your mashed potatoes are not as hot, because it's gonna spend another 45 minutes after in the oven. And now I didn't put any salt, but I put salt in the water when I was cooking it. And this is where after you want to make sure, so you have to be careful. See, I don't need to put anything. I find when you put salt while you're cooking your potato in the water, I don't know, it makes a big difference, I find, instead of adding the salt after. Because really your potatoes get salty right to the core. So when you make the, there's a different, I can taste the difference. And that's it. So our mashed potatoes are ready. So I put salt. So let's see. I didn't use all the milk. So while you do your mashed potatoes, if you follow my recipe, don't put the milk all at once. Just go like a little bit, because it depends on the potatoes. Sometimes some potato will take more cream or milk or less. So you have to play with it. Well, this is hot and this is gonna stay hot for a little bit. So now we can put it on the side. My meat is still cooking. Now you can see my corn here. See how that cream totally reduced. So now I'm gonna take that thyme off there. And I'm just gonna blitz the corn, not the whole thing. If you guys don't have a hand mixer, what I would do, take your blender and just put half of the corn in the blender, make it like a creamy, smooth, and then pour it in the rest of the corn that's chunky. So for this here meat, all I'm gonna do, and that's it. Okay. Now, let me just reorganize here.
Quality of a good chef, huh? Reorganizing.
Well, when we don't have too much space, you kind of have to.
Yes, and often the kitchen was really small, huh? In those houses in Quebec.
So now, depending of the meat, sometime I thought my meat was quite lean, but looks like a bit. So you can, and because this is not my butter is definitely in the sauce with the flour. So that fat you see on top, it's definitely what the ground beef came up with. So you don't be shy. You can go with a ladle and just take some of the fat off this. But if I was you, like if you go to your butcher, try to get like a lean meat. Then you can add more butter. I'm kidding. Okay. So now see that meat, see how it's juicy. And some people may think it may be still too juicy or too loose. But keep in mind, this is gonna go back in the oven with everything, and it's gonna lose more of its water. So it's gonna get thicker as it's in the oven. So now the easy part or the fun part, everything is ready. Now we need to build it layer wise. So
quick question, just to clarify from the audience. The meat was all beef, or is it a mix with pork?
I did all beef. To be a cottage pie with the beef, but you know, you could do it with, you could make a shepherd's pie and that'll be lamb, but then it's not a pâté chinois anymore. That's
another twist.
Pardon me?
That's another twist if you switch.
Yes. It. No. Once again, you can do whatever you want. But I'm just trying to stay to the traditional. I know tourtière, when you make a tourtière, it's a mix of like veal, pork, and beef. But for the shepherd's pie, seriously, for the cottage pie, the pâté chinois, I pretty much sure it was all, I only see like just beef. That's what I saw.
Thank you.
So now we're ready to build this. So there's many things you can do. You can do a big one. So now here I'm gonna do 2 small ones. then you can eat one today, put one, like let it cool down, the other one, and then put it in the freezer. And then you have a meal for in 2 weeks or next week. You can even make smaller one. Like if there's only 2 of you at home, like just make smaller one with like proper Tupperware, but that goes, it needs to be a oven-proof dish. And you can like stock your freezer like this, and it's great. You know, you come and you can even put straight from frozen in the oven. Make sure you put a tray under, and then you let it cook. And then like in about an hour, dinner will be ready for you.
So, Chef,
yeah,
do you find the pâté chinois would be better if you cook it and eat it, or réchauffer, comme on dit, if you reheat it later?
Yeah, you know, me, I would have to say I prefer a 1-day-old shepherd's pie. I think it's a bit kind of like that same thing with the Italian and their tiramisu. Tiramisu is actually good the next day. Like there's something where like all the layer just like get together and then they become one. I think it's better when the next day.
Okay.
Like often my mom will make, my grandmother too, they will make the shepherd's pie, the pâté chinois, the day before. So when my mom came back from work, she'd just throw it in the oven. It was done. And then, so.
Okay, so to go back to your freezing part, so would you put everything together, not put it in the oven, and then send it into the freezer?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So now I'm going to put the meat in there. And then see this right here, like this is probably good for 4 people. This will still be good for 4 people. And you see, I still have some meat. And then it's up to you how thick you like it. Now I'm putting it in different bowl, but you know what? I could have left my meat in this pan and then layered it and keep it in the pan and then put it in the oven. If I was not doing the freezer, that was just to eat like tonight, you just can leave it in there. And that's it. So you can see. Now the corn, because I think this is what makes it a pâté chinois, a Quebec cottage pie. It's really that cream corn layer in the middle. Because the French makes the parmentier, where it's just hachis parmentier, where it's only potato and meat. But see, in Quebec, we put that cream corn layer in it. And I think it's great because it gives a layer, like a sweetness. Corn is super sweet. And I make sure it's everywhere. Then you do it here. And then let me, and then the mashed potato. So mashed potato, what I do, I take little dub and then I put some. Like
that's where it can get messy if you don't know this technique.
Yes, because depending too, like I like my mashed potato usually a little looser than most people at home. So, and I would say most chefs always make their mashed potato a little looser compared to a mom at home. So that's why, but when you make it a little looser, it's actually easier to spread. So,
although in my family, I guess my dad was the pâté chinois specialist. Dad and pea soup. Yeah. My mom did everything else, but he took over this recipe.
That's funny. In my family, it was my dad making the pâté chinois as well.
Oh,
that was his thing. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I think the new generation too now, because my sister, my niece, it's not my sister that makes the pâté chinois. It's my brother-in-law that makes it all the time. Because my niece actually don't want to eat my sister.
Yeah. I was gonna say they're probably like, oh no, pas encore du pâté chinois.
No, actually, the niece that's all they're extremely picky eater, but that's the one thing they can eat and eat and eat, and they never get sick of it.
Well, if they tasted yours, I'm not surprised.
Well, you know what? I think my niece are so focused on their dad's shepherd's pie that, yeah. Uncle Dom is a chef, but I don't think they really care. But, you know, shepherd's pie, once it's this dish, it's like, everybody makes a good one, but it's really, it comes from memory that brings to you. So one thing I like to do before I put it in the oven, so I like to take 2 forks, and then I will just like break down this. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I love my mashed potato to get crispy from the oven.
Oh, that's your trick. Yeah, I love it.
So this makes tons of like peaks, and those peaks in the oven, they're gonna dry out. And then I find this is the trick that I learned it from my grandmother. And I'm not making that up. This is really, I remember she was doing it because when I was a kid, that was the part I could do. She would let me do that.
No, this is little trick, but that changes a lot of things. I was wondering.
Yeah, I think so.
That. Yeah, that and everything in, you know, the half cream, half corn, the texture of it, and then your tomato paste.
And then paprika. My grandmother used to put paprika, just plain paprika, but since I discovered smoked paprika, I think it's a great little touch for that, because it gives this like little smokiness to your shepherd's pie, almost like you had bacon in it, but there's no bacon. And then that's it. You just sprinkle the top like this. And now I won't do it, but you could, if it was like a really special day, you can take another butter stick and then cut little slice, and you put like little cube on top, and then you put that in the oven. So because of the cooking class today, I was ready with another shepherd's pie. Just give me 1 minute. That one is in the oven. And there we go. So I made one today because I couldn't wait 45 minutes to have the shepherd's pie perfectly cooked. But see, this is why there's like little crumbs.
Looks delicious.
This is like, and usually you definitely want to wait. When it comes out of the oven, you wait. Maybe it's like a piece of meat. You don't want to get in and start cutting in it right away. So you probably just let it cool down, let it settle, maybe for 20 minutes. This is going to stay hot, even if you don't keep it in the oven. Like that's going to stay hot for at least 45 minutes, like easy, if not an hour. So don't worry too much. But this needs to relax a little bit, and then it'll be ready to eat. And I know some people sometimes complain about that, except I never hear French Canadian complaining about that. It's always other people that are not from Quebec, and I tell them that we eat our shepherd's pie with ketchup, and there's no shame to it, and not necessarily fancy ketchup. Just regular ketchup that you find at the diner, but a green ketchup, because in Quebec we're known to make this like really good green ketchup. That will be good too. But even me, I don't eat ketchup with my French fries, like barely, and never. I often eat mayo with my French fries. But when it comes to pâté chinois, I'm always with tons of ketchup in it. And I think this comes from me being a kid. That was my thing, and I think most people that's where it came from. And then everybody eats with ketchup. Same thing with the tourtière. That's another thing. I'll only just eat it with like regular ketchup.
Yeah, and you mentioned the green tomato ketchup and tomato and fruit, and then, you know, with those spices you were talking about before. Yeah, I used to eat my shepherd's shepherd's pie with that ketchup, and then the tourtière with the red ketchup, homemade.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Those are super easy to make to these ketchups, and they taste so good.
I have a couple questions for you, Dominic.
Yeah. I'm here.
Yeah. So first off, what's the temperature of the oven, and how far was it from the element to give it this nice crispy? Mine does not look like that, let me tell you.
See, all oven are different, and this was basically in the oven since the beginning, like when we started the class around 6, like 5:45. So it's been there for a while, but it was on the bottom, but I had it at 400. But you could just do like, get your pie hot when you see the bubbling and you let it bubble. And if you don't have time to wait to get crispy, you just switch it to broil. Okay. And but if you put it to broil though, don't go anywhere. You just put the shepherd's pie under the top element, but just stay there and watch it until it gets color.
Because you didn't put an egg or anything. You just
no eggs. But I think that one had add cubes of butter too. The butter will help. I know it's bad, but the butter would help getting it crispy too.
Okay, and then the other question we have from the audience is, would you suggest any wines to go with it or any Quebec beer to go with it? Like, what's your drink of choice to accompany this?
You know, it's just like, depending what kind of the mood you are, definitely Quebec beer, like Unibroue and Fin du Monde, like a beer that got those flavor, like a bit more like, you know, those European beer flavor, Belgium, because that will be amazing. But if you're not a beer drinker, I would drink a lighter red with this. I love Burgundy. Yeah, that's what I would. Or Beaujolais, a Morgon, like that kind of wine. That will go perfectly with it.
Perfect. And then just to the other person who asked for the recipe, I will make sure to send the recipe again, and also the link to this cooking class to all our attendees after. But thank you.
And then, you know, there's beer, there's wine, but I remember eating this when I was a kid. And the one thing, I don't know why, it was always when it was shepherd's pie, but that's when my mom was buying Pepsi. And then,
oh my God.
And that was Pepsi we drink with it.
I was gonna say a glass of milk with a spoon.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, me too. A nice glass of milk was pretty good too.
Oh yeah, no milk. I got weird when I got a little older with milk and eating a savory dish. I
No, for sure. But when we were young, it would.
Oh yeah. No, but me too. But then after a while, like I think when I turned like 12, I couldn't drink the milk anymore. But yeah. But that's it. This is my shepherd pie, and maybe you know what? Let's see. I'll take one scoop so you guys can see what it looks inside. We didn't wait maybe long enough, and then I'll put this here. But this is like, you see how it's not dry? It's super moist. You can see the corn, the potatoes are This is. In my idea, this is a perfect shepherd's pie.
It looks amazingly good.
Bon, mais I'm glad that this is it. So, joyeuse Saint-Jean, tout le monde. Je suis bien content d'avoir fait ça avec vous autres.
Hey, merci, Chef Dominic.
Merci beaucoup, Chef Dominic. Happy Québec National Day, everyone.
Oui, joyeuse Saint-Jean, tout le monde.
Bonne Saint-Jean, tout le monde. Bonne Saint-Jean.
Bye.
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 Merci.